Fifth Hour Radio Show.
Barry, you've had such a long-lasting career. You started off, you've done television and movies, and you've had a singing career. You've even done game shows, and I saw you on. I want to say it was the Dating Game years ago as a contestant.
Yeah, decades ago.
What was that like? I mean, let's just flash back in time a little bit.
Well, at the time I did the Dating Game, the Brady Bunch had been on for about 3 years, and that was one of those things that comes through and says, "Hey, would you like to go on the Dating Game?" And I thought, "Yeah, I don't have a girlfriend. Let's check it out." And I went on once as a contestant and twice as the guy asking the questions and choosing the date. And it was all great fun. It was very much like the whole world of working on a television series and getting offers to do other nationally broadcast television shows or magazines or tours. And it was a wonderful period.
So you're sitting here with three young girls. I mean, you're young yourself. They were probably wanting to tear you apart.
It never panned out. It never panned out. I'm sorry to say, it just really didn't. But the show was fun to do. And Jim Lane was the host, and it was a very popular game show at the time. And I haven't talked about the Dating Game since about the time that I did it.
Well, we like to go way back. Speaking of going way back, let's go back to the very beginning. Okay, young Barry Williams, you're starting off in the business. What was your first big break?
Run for Your Life, a series with Ben Gazzara about a man who had 2 years to live and had to cram his entire lifetime of living into those 2 years. Unfortunately for him, the show lasted 4 years, so they had to keep re-explaining his longevity. But I went on from Run for Your Life to the Dragnet show.
Okay, what was that like, Dragnet? Working with Jack Webb, was he as straight-laced as he was on the show, or?
Absolutely, and he was, a multi-talent force in Dragnet. He was the executive producer, he was the star, he was the writer, and it was all business with him. But he was very gracious with me, and we ran that show every Christmas. It was a Christmas episode. He ran it for 5, 6, 7 years.
Now I saw a clip of you on Mission Impossible. And I don't know if my eyes were deceiving me, but it looked like you were a girl.
Well, my acting talents expand way beyond those people's expectations. It was the first and last time I had to portray a young girl, and unfortunately for me, no matter how much makeup or how they combed that wig, I just never would have dated me as a young kid, that's for sure. But I will say that was what I consider the biggest break and the most welcome job opportunity I'd ever had, because Peter Graves, who played, silver-haired Mr. Phelps, was my original. He was my original inspiration for getting into show business. His daughter is my age. We went to nursery school together. He was doing a different show at that time when I was 3, 4, called Fury. Mm-hmm. And Fury was about a guy who owned a ranch and an orphaned New York City kid who came to live with him. And I watched that, and I was inspired to go into acting. And then all those years later, some 10 years later, I had this chance to guest star on my very favorite show of all time, which was Mission Impossible. And I had the leading role. The mission was about saving me. And I got to work with my idol and inspiration.
That's awesome. That's just totally awesome.
Yeah.
Barry, how did you first get cast as Greg Brady? When you first auditioned for that role, I mean, did you know, like, hey, this is me all the way?
No. It was another job offer, another job opportunity. And there were thousands of kids that were being interviewed and auditioned. But I did feel like I had maybe a leg up on some of the people that were showing up from Orange County, because I had done several shows at Paramount Studios by then, including Mission Impossible and That Girl and the Mod Squad and Gomer Pyle. And so the studio was familiar with me, the network was familiar with me, and most importantly, I looked like Robert Reed.
Well, talking about Gomer Pyle, what was that like brushing up against Frank Sutton?
It's actually his autograph I was seeking in that scene, and it was, boy, you do know your trivia, and it was great. It was, Gomer Pyle was another one of the shows that I watched, and we all watched regularly, and so getting to have a scene with Frank Sutton and with Jim Nabors was a lot of fun. But I always remember it now as one of the important shows that I did that led to Brady Bunch, because it was directed by the same director that directed our first 7 episodes and was involved with the casting. And so making a good impression there, I think, kind of led to Brady.
Now, I didn't hear you mention Adam 12. You were on that as well, weren't you?
Another Jack Webb show. And that, I think I got because I'd made a good impression on him doing Dragnet. And so they cast me in One Adam 12. And I don't generally talk about that because many people don't remember what One Adam 12 was all about. That was
One Adam 12.
at a time when
One Adam 12.
There you go.
My mom used to make me watch that. I'm a young lad, but boy, my mom sure loved that show. Martin Milner and Kent McCord, I think it was.
What's that?
I thought Martin Milner and Kent McCord. I think it's McCord.
There you go.
Guys were awesome.
Kent McCord is right. Yeah.
So Greg Brady, we're talking about Greg Brady now. Let's jump into the Greg Brady days. So much lore, so many legends about the show. I had read somewhere where I guess you were. I got to ask you this, and if you don't want to answer this, is fine. But experimenting with things during the show, is that true? I mean, I saw an episode.
Cannabis, yes.
Yeah, cannabis.
Yeah, I wrote a whole. I wrote a whole book that detailed the rumors and the unknown sort of episodes. And yes, as a kid growing up in the 70s, I was experimental, and I did not have a good experience combining my acting skills and being high. But there is a scene in the Brady Bunch when, for those who know the show well, Dad was driving in with a rowboat on top of the station wagon, and I was fixing my bike, and I saw this opportunity. I didn't get high to do the show. They'd give me a day off, and I thought. And then they called me in, and so everything was already in place. But I thought, hey, okay, let's go. Let's just recreate the entire character of Greg Brady. He'll be cool. He'll be smooth. He'll be a little wacky. And in my sort of smoking enhanced state of mind, I thought this is really going to be a creative adventure. However, I'm not a pot smoker, and I found that out that day because, when the red light came on and the soundstage got quiet, the director called action. I froze and experienced the first of a few episodes of paranoia, and it was the safest performance I could possibly give, and very uncomfortable. So I did not repeat that experience.
Speaking of that station wagon that you just brought up, we had a listener named David Hubbard, and he wrote into us, and he wanted to ask you a question. He said, does Barry know what happened to that old station wagon used in the Brady Bunch? I sure would love to have that in my collection.
I don't, but I'm sure, we have Google these days, and you can probably find out. And my guess is it's been torn apart, and there are pieces of it in several different cars.
I imagine so. Barry, how did you come up with the idea to do the Real Greg Brady, the parody of Eminem's Real Slim Shady? I loved it. I always get a kick out of listening to it.
Well, that came about by a really talented couple of radio personalities, and in Ohio, and they asked me to stop by. I didn't even know the real Slim Shady at the time, but they gave me this thing and written. It starts with bell bottoms, polyester headbands, orange hair. Was it permed? Was it real? Hey, I'm just glad you care. And
love it, man, love it.
On into you. I'm Greg Brady. Yes, I'm the real Brady. All the other Greg Bradys are just irritating. So if you ain't Greg Brady, please don't shut. Please stand up. Please stand. And that was the genesis of the idea, and I kind of tailored it and ran with it and had fun with it on the MTV, not the MTV, the Billboard Music Awards, and have performed it in several different venues and at times.
Now, you've done some sci-fi movies here recently, and you starred in the Bigfoot just a few months ago on Sci-fi, right?
Yes, but not until after I had successfully created the role of the Secretary of State in Mega Piranha.
Bob Grady. That was Bob Grady.
Yeah, right. So that, and again, that I think had to do with a successful kind of venture. And I thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun to team Danny Bonaducci and Barry Williams in a sci-fi epic called Bigfoot, Big Bad and Mean. And I said, well, I read the script and I thought, okay, yeah, this is believable. But I'll tell you what, I'll do it if I have a chance to avenge myself from the debacle of celebrity boxing with Danny Bonaducci, where he roundly, well, let's just say, he won.
Yeah, but Bonaducci, he's a martial arts expert, or he's been training in martial arts for like forever, right?
Well, but the producers didn't tell me that, and I found out the hard way. And he was small but scrappy. So I said, if I can beat the crap out of him in this movie, I'll do it. And they said, okay. And I did. I got to break a guitar over his back. I got to flip him. I got to hit him with not a 1, 2, or 3 punch, but a 1, 2, 3, 4 punch. And Danny was great. He was all about it.
Well, now I seen you were in a movie not too long ago called Flea, and you were playing Marshman, and it was beautifully shot.
How did you see that?
Because I'm awesome.
How did you see? Wow.
Well, but anyway,
I'm impressed.
Beautifully shot movie. And how did you get into that role of the Marshman? It's a really philosophical type character.
That was just a stretch of connections of people who knew people and said they were doing this movie up in Eureka, California, the pot capital of the world, by the way. And yeah,
red lights on.
And I read the script and I thought, hey, this will be cool. I can wear a beard and and do something different where people don't actually recognize me and nobody will see it, and do what I like to do. And that's how I became a part of Flea.
You did some Broadway too. Can you talk a little bit about your Broadway experience with Romance?
Yeah, well, actually, what I would consider my peak experience in show business occurred the first time I walked out on the stage on Broadway, the Imperial Theater, in the title role of Pippin. I was cast by Bob Fosse, and there's a song that's called "Corner of the Sky," and I had rehearsed it, the show, and was ready, but what I was unprepared for was they added the orchestra for my first night, and the orchestra was underneath my feet, underneath the stage. Uh-oh. And I was barefoot. And I came out and I sang, and the orchestra kicked in the chorus of this beautiful song, Corner of the Sky, written by Stephen Schwartz, and I felt like I was being lifted into the air. Kind of like all of my dreams, all of my, everything I'd worked for kind of came together, and that started me on a whole direction for my adult career. My first show, Pippin, after the Brady Bunch, and I've done some, almost close to 100 different productions since then, both on Broadway, off-Broadway, and Broadway national tours, and just everything from summer stock to community theater. But I've really enjoyed those many, many years that I've had working in musical theater, and include Romance was a return to Broadway for me, a 2-character play. it's kind of led all to what I'm doing now, and where I've moved from Los Angeles to the Midwest to the Ozark Mountains to a little city, but it's known as the music capital of the country because there are more shows here in Branson, Missouri, than any other.
So you're working in Branson. What do you got going on there at the moment?
Well, I'm working here and living here both, and I've created a show called 70s Music Celebration. And as the title implies, it's all about the 70s music. And it's a 2-hour show, huge production, $1 million production with cast and live band and multimedia and flash pots, mirror balls, and confetti, and we go through all the styles of the 70s music. The pop songs of Leonard Skinner and Grand Funk Railroad, the Eagles, and the singer-songwriter kind of thing from Carole King to James Taylor and Elton John, to country crossover of the Carpenters and Dolly Parton, and a folk section with Neil Diamond, and disco section, and it is fun. I'm having the greatest time of my life, and I'm working with the best team I've ever put together.
So basically, you're just transported back into the 70s, and you get to relive some of the greatest times ever.
Yeah, well, yes, in a sense. At least I get to be the spokesperson for them. It is the music that resonates with me, that I'm passionate about. I play the guitar in 9 of the songs. I love singing this music, and it's a multi-generational kind of family show that the kids know the music, and Grandpa knows the music, parents know the music, and I talk about the 70s a bit, and get to sing and perform the songs that I care about the most.
You do any Johnny Bravo tunes?
Not too much of the Johnny Bravo thing. It's not really a Brady show, although I do have a section of TV theme songs, and we run through about 12 of them, from Dukes of Hazzard to Mary Tyler Moore to Bob Newhart, and in the middle of that, I include the Brady Bunch theme song, and how important the Brady theme song was to getting our show on television, because the network felt that our show was too complicated and would take an entire episode every week to explain how all those kids got to be living in the same house together. But Sherwood Schwartz, who created the show, went out into the hallway during the meeting, wrote down the lyrics to the theme song, came back and said, "Look, I can explain this song during the opening credits." And here's the story of a lovely lady.
I want to ask you something about the Peter Gabriel song, the Barry Williams show. Now, the rumor is that it's not about you, but you made a cameo appearance in the video, right?
I did, and unlike you, some of your listeners might not be quite as up to date on the diversity of my career. And let me just say once again how impressed I am.
Thank you very much.
Peter Gabriel, who'd been out of the scene for about 6 or 7 years, of course, he's from Genesis, created an album and released his single from that album. How long ago? Probably 7 years, 7 years. Mm-hmm. And his single is called The Barry Williams Show. So, all right, cut and dissolve. I knew that this song was in existence. It's a good song, but I was curious as to what I had to do with it. And I was in Chicago and get a call on my cell phone. And I said, hello, and he said, is this Barry? And I said, yes, it is. He said, hello, Barry, this is Sean Penn.
Oh, okay.
I said, okay, hi, Sean. He says, maybe you know that Peter Gabriel has written this song called The Barry Williams Show. And I said, yes, I am. He said, well, I'm going to direct the video, and I'd like you to be part of it. Can you get to Los Angeles? And I told him, well, yeah, of Well, I'm going to say no. And so I flew to Los Angeles from Chicago and did a little, very, very little cameo in the video. And Sean explained to me that Peter Gabriel didn't know who Barry Williams was, because he's English, Irish, and just was out of that loop. But Sean said, if I'm going to do a video that's going to be released in the States, they got to know that we know who he is.
Yeah.
And so that's how that came about. It was great. And I got to hang a bit with Peter Gabriel, got to hang with Sean Penn, and had a great time with the video.
So when you met Peter, did you come up to him and did you say, hey, I'm Barry Williams?
Yeah, right. That's exactly what I did. I pulled the star card.
There you go. There you go. Barry, where can people go as far as website, social media, to find out what you got going on at the moment?
Well, all my world right now is about 70s music celebration. There's a website. It's 70s, but it's 70s. That's, spell it out. 70s musiccelebration.com, or Facebook, 70s Music Celebration. And we have clips on there and photos and kind of a description of what the show's about, what's going on. And for people that are in Branson, I want to make it a must-see.
You got to be in love to love a love song.
Yes, you do. And no truer words were ever spoken.
Well, Barry, man, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, let me just say, I am super impressed with your digging in and your knowledge base, and you've obviously done some serious research because you've got a pretty complete idea of where I started when I was 11 years old, 47 years ago, and it's been fun visiting, and revisiting, some of these things that I haven't talked about in, years and years.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.